Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rob. I am a certified assistant county assessor with the Assessment Review Commission. I want to thank Legislator Gaylor for inviting me to speak with you tonight to help you learn how to file a grievance online for free without the need to hire a company to do it for you. Before we begin, I want to remind everyone to take advantage of the Q&A feature of this online event. If you have any questions, please enter them into the Q&A, and we will address as many of them as we can at the end of the presentation. Again, please take advantage of that Q&A feature. There is a 30-second at least a delay between when we say things and when you hear them, and that's why we're not taking questions live. But as you think of them, please put them in the Q&A, and this way we'll know what's coming when we address them all at the end of the presentation. So this presentation tonight is going to help you learn how to file a grievance online, and it's going to show you how to use the sales locator to look for comparable sales to help support your case, because the reason you're filing is you feel that your property is being overassessed, that the market value and the assessed value are too high, and therefore you feel that you need to grieve your taxes. Excuse me, grieve your assessment. My apologies. What you're looking at right now is the webpage of the Assessment Review Commission. You can get to our website by going to www.askarcnassau.com. And on our homepage, if you look towards the right-hand side of the screen, you see a orange or red, depending on what your screen looks like, link that says ARC 2022-2023 brochure. And if you click on that link, you will have the ability to download our current brochure, which has a lot of contact information, our address, our phone number, our email address. It also has the ARC calendar, which has all the important dates. And before we continue any further, I have the legislator on speakerphone, and I'm going to bring him into the conversation and let him say hello to everybody. So, legislator, you're live with everybody. Why don't you say hi to us all?
Well, thank you, Nick. Yep, thank you, guys. Thank you, Nick, Rob, and everybody at the Assessment Review Commission for the outstanding work that you do every day trying to help our constituents. And again, thank you to all who have logged on, signed in, called in, or otherwise trying to figure out, like I am, how to watch this remotely. And welcome. So it's important that we grieve our taxes, as you know, and it's important that you know how to do it yourself so that you don't have to hire a firm if you don't want to. Our office is here to assist you. You can call my office after this presentation next week, and we'll be glad to work with you one-on-one if your questions and issues haven't been resolved. But I do ask everybody to continue to grieve their taxes this year and next year, as we work through this new reassessment system that started about 2 years ago. And, like every new system, it has its ups and downs, and we'll get through it. We'll all get through it. But what is clear is that until it is a near-perfect system, let's just keep grieving our taxes. So again, enjoy the presentation today. It's an excellent presentation. Ask lots of questions. The presenters are highly knowledgeable and skilled in what they do. I think that will all be better for the presentation tonight. So thank you, guys. Just, pay attention, and there's a lot to learn tonight. So again, thank you, and be well, everybody.
Thank you, legislator. Thanks for calling in. We appreciate it. Okay, so again, this is the brochure. It has all the important dates. It's great to keep handy. Very important to know that if you look on the brochure, it says the last day to appeal your 2023 assessment, your 22-23 assessment, is March 1st. Now that's been extended. The deadline's been extended to April 30th, 2021. So you do have a little bit more time, but again, we are strongly urging you not to wait till the last minute. Get it done early. You could always file your appeal, make changes later on after you filed your appeal, but it definitely has to be in by midnight, April 30th. Please don't wait till the last moment, because if you and 1,000 other people decide to log on at 11:55 on April 30th, and the system slows down and your appeal doesn't get through before midnight, you are out of luck. There is nothing we can do. So again, please Don't wait till the last minute. You can file your appeal early. You can go back and make some changes if you need to be, but definitely get the appeal in on time. And I want to stress that when you're filing an appeal, you're not filing an appeal of directly your taxes. What you're doing is filing an appeal of your market value and your assessed value, which is used to calculate your taxes. So again, we're going to explain tonight how you do that. Again, if you have any questions at all, take advantage of the Q&A feature, and we will be answering all those questions at the end of the presentation. Okay, so what we're talking about is taking advantage of a system that's called ARROW. It stands for Assessment Review on the Web. Now, if you're on our homepage, ARC's homepage, you can either click on the left-hand side where it says ARROW, or you can go there directly by using the link that's at the bottom of your screen. You would type in www.nassaucountiny.gov/ARC/ARROW, and that would take you directly to the ARROW site. So we're going to go by clicking on the ARROW link on the left. And now we are on the ARROW page. And again, it stands for Assessment Review on the Web. That's the page you're looking at. Now, first thing you need to do, if you've never been on our site before, if you've never registered before, is you're going to have to register in the system. So on the left-hand side, you see a link. It says Register with ARC. I'm going to click on that link. It's going to bring you to the registration page. Everywhere you see an asterisk has to be filled out. So we need a first name, need a last name, street address, city, state, zip code, phone number, very important in case we need to reach you by phone. Now, maybe about a third of the way down, almost halfway down, you see it says ARC is now offering the option of receiving electronic or paper notifications for offers and determinations. What that means is you have the option of getting contacted by email or contacted by regular mail on paper. Now, one of the great things about filing online is you get instant notifications through email. Things don't get lost in the actual mail because you're using the online system. So we strongly urge you to use electronic communications. However, if you like the old-fashioned way and you like to use paper and have that feeling of having the paper in your hand to read, you are more than welcome to do so by choosing the paper option. If you've registered before, it's very important you go in and double check your registration information. You would go to change registration information. You would look at this page. It's very important to check and make sure the email address that you have in the system is still valid. If you were at a job last year and you've switched jobs and you used your work address, you need to switch that, otherwise we won't be able to contact you. If you switch cable companies, you went from Fios to Opt Online or back and forth, again, you need to make sure the address that we have in the system is current. So please double check that if you've registered previously. And if it's for the first time, obviously, you're going to put a valid email address in there. Below that, you're going to enter the user ID, choose a password. If at any point you have a problem with your ID or password, you can call customer service. Customer service can help you with your password. They can reset it if need be and so forth. So we'll give you those phone numbers later on. If you have a problem, you can always contact customer service if you get locked out of your account. When you're all done with everything, you've read through what you're actually registering for, you're going to click on complete this registration at the bottom of the screen. You'll get a message saying thank you for registering. Now, if you're done, you can log out. You're all set. You don't have to do everything in one shot. You can just create your registration account and be finished for that day. It's entirely up to you. Very important to know, if you are working on a public computer, if you don't have your own computer, you go to the library and borrow one of theirs. Log out every time you are done. You don't want to leave people the chance to log into your account. Very important. So if you notice in the account that we've registered, you'll see on the screen where it says Welcome to ARROW Assessment Review on the Web. It actually says John Smith because that's the name you registered with. That's how you know you're logged into the system. One more thing. Besides the confirmation on the screen, you're going to get an email sent to the address you use when you register. It may not look exactly like this, but it will look similar. It depends on what you use to check your email. It's going to confirm the fact that you registered. It's going to confirm your user ID. It's going to confirm your first name, last name, and so forth. If you don't get this confirmation email, please check your spam folder to make sure that it's not going to your spam folder. Very important, because you need to get these emails. That's how ARC will be contacting you. Okay, so registration is complete. The next time you visit Arrow, you would click on the login tab that's located on the left side of the screen where it says login. You're going to enter your username, your user ID, your password, and click login, and that'll bring you into the system. Now, like I said before, the bulk of this presentation concerns using Sales Locator. Now, ARC has provided a Sales Locator tool that's going to assist you in filling out your application form. It's only able to be used for residential 1, 2, or 3 family homes. It is not configured for condominiums or co-ops. Now, what the Sales Locator does is provide you adjusted sales prices of properties that are comparable to yours, and we'll go in further about what it means to be comparable to yours. And this will help you determine if your property is currently overvalued. So to file an appeal with the assistance of Sales Locator, what you would do is click on "Do you have a good case for filing an appeal?" link. It's located at the bottom of the page. So we're going to click on that link. And now we're in Sales Locator. And what you first need to do is either perform a search using your parcel ID or your actual address. If you don't know your parcel ID, don't worry, most people don't. So we're going to look by address. So you'll notice in property search, it has the number, and for us, it's 504. Street is Christie. Now, you don't put anything after that. If it's Christie Street, Christie Lane, Christie Avenue, you just put in Christie. The reason being, if you put too much information and it's not consistent with what we have on our system, say you put in street, S-T-R-E-E-T, but it's actually in there as Christie Street, S-T, it will not come up in a search. So please don't put too much information in there. Just the name of the street. We need a city. We need a zip code. You'll click search. And as you see at the bottom of the screen, we have 504 Christie Street. If there are multiple homes with that address, say you didn't put a city or a zip code, you'll have to look for the correct one. There may be multiples listed below. You find the correct one. You're going to click on the parcel ID. So we'll click on that. Next thing you're doing is going to enter a security code to prove that you're not a robot. So you're going to take the letters that are in the black box on the left-hand side. You're going to enter them to the white box to the right. It's not case sensitive, so lowercase or uppercase doesn't make a difference as long as the letters are correct. You're going to click on continue, and if you got those letters and numbers right, you should see your home. So in this case, we see 504 Christie Street in Hempstead. It's Class 1 property. It's a 1 family. It's located in the Rockville Center School District. It's not in a village, and it's located in the town of Hempstead. On the right-hand side of your screen, you see assessment information 2022-23. You'll see the appeal period is January 4th, 2021 to March 1st, 2021. And you notice at the top of the page, we have a note reminding you that has been extended till April 30th, 2021. At the bottom of that section, you'll see it says taxable market value, $461,000. And the assessed value is $461,000. So that's what we're going to be filing appeal on. That you feel that the number in the taxable market value is too high, that your house, if it was placed on the market, would sell for a lower price. And we'll go into that a little bit more later on. On the left-hand side, you see dwelling information. Let's take a close-up look at that. So in the box on the left, you see dwelling information, and it says construction, aluminum, vinyl, year built 1954, lot size, which is the size of your property in square feet. Living area. Living area is the square footage of your home. Now, it's only based on the main floor and any upper floors. So if you have a basement, and in this case we do, now Cape has a first floor and a second floor. The living area that you see is the first floor and second floor square footage only. It does not include the square footage of the garage or the square footage of the basement. You'll see we also have 2 full baths, no half bath, a 1-car garage, and as we mentioned before, we have a basement. Now, if you're looking at this and the information is incorrect, in this example, you'll see that it says 2 full bathrooms, and we feel that's incorrect because we have 3 full bathrooms. What you can do is click where it says change values. You will have the ability to make changes to those figures. So in this case, instead of 2, we need to change it to 3 baths. So we'll erase the 2, we'll put in a 3, and then we'll click apply changes. Now, That'll make the change here for Sales Locator for the rest of your use of Sales Locator in this case. However, it does not make the change in the actual Department of Assessment county records, which means if there's a mistake here, you need to contact Department of Assessment and let them know, especially in a case where perhaps they say you have 5 full bathrooms and you only have 1. Well, you don't want to have the value of 4 extra bathrooms assigned to your home, so you would contact Department of Assessment. Their phone number is there, and we'll show it again later. You'd give them a call. If it's anything that has to do with interior stuff, like extra kitchens or bathrooms, they will probably have to schedule to come to your house and do a walk through your home, an interior inspection. If it's something outside, say they think you have a garage, but the garage was taken down 2 years ago, that's the kind of thing they probably can just drive by your home and see from the street. But again, you need to contact them to make any of these changes permanent. Otherwise, you're going to have the same issue year after year. Okay. All the information we're saying now is correct. We're going to click on Find Sales. And right now, what you see is the results from the Sales Locator. Now, what Sales Locator does is look for sales in the same neighborhood as you. And you'll notice on the left-hand side, but the third row in or column in, you'll see it says proximity. That shows how close or how far that sale is from your home. All these sales are located in the same school district as this home is. The reason being, when people go shopping for a home, school district is very important. And if they're looking for a home and they can't buy yours, then more than likely they're going to try and find another home in the same school district. So that's why we say in the same school district. When you're looking for comparable sales, what we mean by comparable is, in our case, we have a subject, it's a cape. We're looking for perhaps a similar cape that is similar in living area, similar in lot area, possibly even similar in age. You're trying to get it as close as possible. You're more than likely not going to find an exact match. So you do the best you can with what you have. If we had a colonial and there were no colonials in the area, you would try to find another home, maybe a cape or a contemporary that is similar in size to yours. So if we have a 2,000 square foot colonial and there are no colonials, but there's an 1,900 square foot cape, well, we would use that because it's close, it's similar to ours. So that's the mindset you're looking at. Additionally, when you're looking at prices here, obviously you're trying to find sales that will help support your case that your assessed value, your market value is too high. So in our case, they say our home is worth $461,000. You're trying to find homes that are similar to our subject that sold for below $461,000. When you're looking at these sales, you're looking for market sales. Market sales means you have a person that wants to sell the house and get as much as they can. You have a buyer that wants to buy the house and pay as little as they can. They negotiate, they come to an agreement. That's the market price. Those are the kind of sales you're looking for. What are you not looking for? Estate sales, where it's a case of the family, somebody passed away, the family wants to sell the house very quick, and so they sell it for below what it typically would sell for. Bank foreclosures, bank-owned properties, things like that. Now, how do you know if it's an arm's length sale, if it's a market sale, or if it's maybe an atypical sale, like a bank sale or a foreclosure? When you're looking at these sales, you'll notice most of them are in a general similarity to each other. They're in the 400s, they're in the 500s in terms of sale price. If you see a home that sells for $250,000 and everything else in the area is selling in the 4s and 5s, more than likely that $250,000 sale was not a market sale and therefore would not be appropriate for you to use for your appeal. Now, you may decide, it helps me, I'm going to use it. And that is entirely your right. Just be aware that the appraiser that looks over your appeal, when he looks at the sales and sees 400, 475, 250, he's going to research that 250 sale, realize it was a foreclosure and not a real market sale, and he's not going to use it to check the value of your home. So I don't want you to waste your time in choosing sales that aren't going to be used by the appraiser who looks at your case. He's going to realize it's not a valid sale. Okay. So the sales you determine that you want to use, you can choose by taking the check boxes on the left-hand side next to the photo and checking those boxes for the sales you want to use. You can use up to 5 comparable sales in this sales locator feature. You can add more than that later on in the actual application, but for sales locator, you can only use 5. Now, people often ask, how many should I use? Should I use 2, 3, 4, 5, 10? There's no right or wrong answer. I can give you my opinion. This is based on my experience. Typically, if you can't prove your case within, say, 3 to 5 sales as proof, then more than likely 7, 8, 9, or 10 sales isn't going to help. Again, that's just my opinion. You're not limited except by 5 sales in a sales locator and a certain amount in the application. But again, putting in a whole bunch of sales isn't necessarily going to help your case. They should be quality sales. That's what's important. Okay, so we've checked the 3 we're going to use. Now at the bottom it says select checked properties and continue. We were going to do so. And now you will see that the sales we've chosen are in columns next to our subject, which is on the left-hand side. And you'll notice as we go through that the computer, the sales locator, has made adjustments to account for differences between our subject and the sales we've chosen. So if we start with the yellow line, and let's look at sale number 1, 508 Stratford Road. That first yellow line is the sale price and sale date. So that home sold for $430,000, and it sold September 13th, 2019. If you keep on going down, you'll see it's a Cape. It was built in 1948. Now you see where it says adjustments. You'll notice 508 Stratford has a lot size, a lot of area of 6,240, which is about 1,500 square feet smaller than our lot area of 7,735. So the computer has added value to account for that difference in square footage. It's given value to that difference. Look at the next line. We have 2 full baths. There's only 1 bath in 508 Stratford. So the computer has added value, in this case $10,000, to say that if you had 2 full baths, your home would have sold for $10,000 more. Same is done for living area. There's a difference in living area. This sale has less living area than our subject, so value has been added to account for that difference. We have a garage in our home. There's no garage on 508 Stratford, so again, value is added. And if you look at the bottom line, now where it says adjusted price, you'll see that the home that sold for $430,000, if it was far more similar to our subject in terms of all these characteristics, it more than likely would have sold for $467,955. That's done for all 3 sales. And that's what you have at the bottom. You have the adjusted price. Now, typically when you have 3 numbers, you would add them together, divide by 3, and you would get an average. You have an option. If you're looking at these sales and you decide that one of these sales is perhaps the best sale, it really makes your case, more so than the other 2. You can do what's called putting various weight on those sales in order to show that. So just above the bottom yellow line, you see it says weight, and it says 34, 33, and 33, because it has to equal 100% total. If you like that first sale and you think that first sale really makes your case, well, maybe you want to put more weight on that one. So you say, I want 50% of the weight to go on that one sale, and then I'll make the other 2 sales 25 and 25, because again, has to equal 100. So you'd have a weighted average that was different than the regular average. That's an option. You can do that or you can not do that. It's entirely up to you. We're going to keep it the way it is. We're going to click on continue. And you'll get this reminder that ARC Sales Locator is not an appraisal. It's not an opinion of value of your property by the Assessment Review Commission. And you have to acknowledge this before you proceed. So in this case, we're going to say, I agree, proceed. And then you'll see the results for selected sales. And again, because we didn't change the weight, you'll notice that the weight adjusted sale price and the average adjusted sale price are very close to each other. If we had weighted it, there may be a bit of a difference there. And as a reminder, it says taxable market value. That's the market value that the Department of Assessment has currently assigned to your home. So if the adjusted sales price is $477 and the taxable market value is $461, it looks like this home is fairly assessed. That being said, Does that mean you can't continue? Absolutely not. The sales locator is not the end-all be-all. You may have used it, but perhaps don't agree with it. Or you think it's maybe close, but you want to appeal anyway. That is entirely up to you. So we're going to click Continue to an Appeal. And now we're getting to the actual application part. So the first thing you're going to do is going to click on the property type from the drop-down list to get to the application form. For most of you, you're going to choose AR1, which is for value claims on a 1, 2, or 3 family home. So we click on AR1. Now, one thing to point out, when you use Sales Locator, some of the information from Sales Locator gets populated automatically into your application. So if you notice, the sales that you used for Sales Locator, they'll be in Part E. The average market value, the average sale price that we used before, is put automatically in the Part B. Now you can make changes to that and we'll show you, but again, I just wanted to point out that when you use Sales Locator, some of the information gets put automatically into your appeal form. One more thing before we get on with the actual form. You're going to see blue question marks throughout this application. They are there to help you. If you are not sure about what they are asking, you can put your mouse right over the question mark. You don't even have to click it, and a helpful box will pop up and explain. So in this case, it's taxpayer applicant's full name, and you're not sure what exactly they're looking for. You put your mouse over the question mark, and that box opens up automatically, and it says, if you own the house, write your name. If you're filing for a relative who owns the house, write that person's name, and so forth. So again, it's like having a person standing over your shoulder, there to help you out. Whenever you're not sure, take advantage of the help feature, put your mouse over the question mark, and let the boxes be your guide. Okay, so we are on Part A now. Now, because we use Sales Locator, our parcel ID is in there automatically, as is the address and the name on the roll. Below that, it's asking for the taxpayer applicant's full name. Under that, it's asking for property owner. Here's a spot for you to put if you have a co-owner, if you have a spouse. People often ask, should I put my spouse on there? It's always a good idea to put your spouse on there. Anybody not on the application, let me rephrase that. If you're not on the application, if John Smith is on the application only, his wife, Jane, decides she wants to call our office and ask questions about the application. If she's not on the application, we can't speak to her. So again, when in doubt, put your spouse on there, put the co-owner on the application. Form, you're going to choose for most of you, individual, but if it's one of the others, choose what is appropriate. Okay, Part B. Now again, the market value that's in there is from Sales Locator. Now, in this case, it doesn't make sense for us to do that because our value for a home right now was $461,000, and from Sales Locator, it's higher, and we're trying to get a reduction. So you would erase that and put in a number that's lower that you feel is valid. Say you think it's really worth $430,000. Well, then you can erase the $476,938 and put in $430,000. It's entirely up to you. Below that, it's asking, is property offered for sale or under contract? If the answer is yes, you would choose yes. You would put the price. That's if it's recently sold, if it's under contract, if it's on the market. Any one of those, you could put that information right there in Part B. Part C, very simple. Representative, and simple to do, not simple to say. The representative type is self. It's done automatically. There is nothing to do here. Okay, Part D. Part D is optional. You can do as little or none of this section. We highly recommend you take advantage of it, though. Click on the pink display button. It will open up Part D so you can see the entire thing. It's going to ask you a variety of questions. Again, you can answer as little, as much, or none of these questions. But what's really important, what I feel really helps you to make your case, is if you go down towards the bottom, it says, are any of these adjacent to or visible from the house? What it's asking is there anything about the house's location that would prove that your house is overassessed? That would, if someone was going to buy your house, would say, well, I would pay you X amount of dollars, but you know, your house floods during a rainstorm because you're right by the water. I want to pay less. That's the mindset you're looking at. So, like we said, waterfront. If you're on the North Shore of Long Island, maybe you get lovely views of Long Island Sound and it's nice and calm. That probably won't impact the value of your home. However, if you are on the South Shore, perhaps you get your house flooded every time it rains. Again, put that information in the Part D. Railroad. If you are close to a railroad, it may be a good thing if you're in an area where a lot of people who commute to the city want to live. You don't have to go find a parking space. You just walk to the train. However, being by the railroad may make it noisy. That may be seen as a negative aspect. Whenever you check a box, don't just check a box. If you look at the bottom, it says other facts. Explain why you feel this is a negative thing that would impact the value of your home. Park, being by a park, that may be a positive thing, or it may be a noisy park, or maybe people that leave a mess around the park. Again, don't leave anything to chance. Put the information in Part D and let us know what's going on. Commercial property, golf course, any of these could be a positive or negative. You live in your home. You're the best advocate to understand what may be seen as a positive or negative. If it's a negative that would impact the value and maybe lower the value, let us know about it. Street with a painted center line or other traffic separation if you're on a busy road. But not just that. If you're by a school, maybe it adds a lot of bus traffic or car traffic. People drop off people, in the morning and afternoon. Let us know about it. Perhaps there's no marks on your road. There's no lines. However, people use your street as a shortcut all the time because they know they can avoid the lights by driving down your block. Let us know about it. These are the things that an appraiser looking at your home may not realize because they don't live there and they don't see anything on a map that says it's a busy road. Let us know about these things. It's very important. You know about your home's location. If you're within 3 blocks of a school and you're the first block that parking is allowed on because it says don't park on the other streets, that may be a problem too. Let us know about it. Okay, Part D, entirely optional. However, it's very important to use. I think it's a great way to make your case. Let's look at Part E. Okay, Part E, just like Part D, is entirely optional. You do not have to include any sales whatsoever if you're filing a grievance, if you're filing an appeal. Don't need any sales. Now you'll see the sales that we had in Sales Locator are here automatically. Now you may decide, I don't want to use these sales. That's an option. You'll notice on the left-hand side, it says delete parcel under each of the parcel IDs. If you wanted to not use 508 Stratford Road, right under the parcel ID, you would click delete parcel, it would take it out. That's it, just that simple. On the right-hand side, you see where it says comments. Maybe you want to add some comments. Perhaps 508 Stratford sold for $430,000 because it was gut renovated and has fine Italian marble and Corinthian leather and a pool and whatever the case may be. Put those comments in there. Let the person reviewing your case know. At the bottom screen, you'll see that there is a blank spot where you can add other sales. Where would you get these sales? Well, you could look at Zillow. You could look at Realtor.com. Perhaps there's a local realtor that you want to contact. This is a great resource. You call a local realtor. You get those cards in your mail all the time. Hey, if you're selling your house, give me a call. Well, you know what? Call the realtor and say, hi, I'm looking to grieve my assessment. Can you help me out with some comparable sales? Often they will say yes, because they're hoping if and when you sell your home in the future, you'll remember that nice realtor who helped you out. So in this case, if you wanted to add a sale, you would click where it says click to search for parcel ID. You would search for it the same way you search for your home in the beginning, street number, street name, nothing after it. And then once you located that street, you would put it in there. You would add the sale date, add the sale price, and maybe a little note that says I found it on Zillow or I got it from a realtor. And by the way, each time you add a new one, a new blank one will go below it. So don't feel like you only have the 4 spots you see. If you add another one, another blank one will appear right below it. So that's Part E. But again, it's entirely optional, entirely up to you. Part F, however, is required. So you have to enter the security code again, because again, they want to make sure you didn't become a robot while you were doing this. You are going to check off the signatory certification. And for most of you, it's going to be owner of record. You're going to read the statement. You are saying that everything you did on this application is true and correct to the best of your knowledge. And it goes into some other legalese. And remember, you should always read something before signing, or in this case, clicking it. So please read and make sure you understand what they're saying about making of any willful false statements and so forth. Very important. So you've got that all filled out. You're going to click on Submit Application Form. Now, in this case, we have a couple of errors. And this is one of the great things about doing this online as compared to if you were to mail it in regular mail. If you mailed it in regular mail, you wouldn't know for a while there was a problem. But here, online, right away it says there's errors found in Part A, there's errors found in Part B. Your appeal has not been submitted yet. And what it also does is it shows you in bright red, as you can see, where those mistakes are. So you would go down and fix the mistakes. In this case, taxpayer's full name was not there, form wasn't chosen, and the bottom there's no market value. You would go in there, make the corrections, and click Submit Changes. And this time, if you did it right, you'll get a red confirmation message saying your appeal has been submitted. It will give you an application number. You will also get an email. And again, double check your spam folder and make sure, because you're going to get a confirmation email. Very important to check. Now, if you're all done, you have a couple of options. If you're all done with everything, you can go to the home page. You can log off if you're all done. Now, you may also need to submit another appeal if you own multiple properties. Or, and we're going to talk about this for a moment, you may need to view or add attachments to your appeal. So, if you have additional documentation, you had an appraisal done like 6 months ago for a refinance, and you think it would help your case, you could attach that appeal, attach that appraisal to your appeal, and we would review it. If you have photos, maybe there's an eyesore across the street, take a picture of it, let us see what's going on, whatever you think is going to help your case. So it's very important to understand, though, that you can add and make changes to your online appeal up until the filing period closes, which in this case, again, is April 30th. That's the only time up until you'll be able to make these changes by adding or taking away documents or making any actual changes. So in this case, we're going to add an attachment by clicking View or Add Attachments. It's going to say, would you like to add one now? And we will say yes. A pop-up window is going to appear. So to upload the attachment, you're going to click on Choose File, and you're going to navigate to the attachment and double-click on it the same way you would if you were attaching something to an email. You're going to see a drop-down list where it says Type of Document. You're going to choose the right one. So it could be a legal document, could be an appraisal, could be photos, whatever the case may be. And if none of those apply, there's an option for Other. Once you've got that set, you're going to click on Submit Attachment. So now you see test.pdf, we've uploaded the attachment. Now, if you put the wrong one in, you can click on Delete Attachment, it'll take it away. Or if you want to add more attachments, you can click on Upload New Document and do the same thing you just did to add more documents. Or if you're all done, you can click on Return to the Appeal Form. Now again, in the event you need to either add or delete an attachment, you can do it yourself up until April 30th, which is the filing period ending date. Anytime after that, you still can add or delete an attachment, but you can't do it yourself. So let's say you had an appraisal done and it's May 1st and you want to add it to your appeal. What you would do is you would mail the appraisal in, and the address is right there, Assessment Review Commission, 240 Old Country Road, 5th floor, Mineola, New York, 11501, attention residential supervisor. You would send that in by mail. Our staff would scan it and add it into your appeal. So we will take care of scanning it for you and adding it as an attachment. But again, remember, anytime after April 30th, you can't do it yourself. You have to mail it into our staff, and we'll take care of it for you. Okay, so after clicking Return to the Appeal Form, after you've uploaded all the documentation, you will see that your application has been received by ARC, and on the right-hand side, you see under Status, it says Received. So now, you can click on the arrow Home tab to go back to the home page. You can click on Log Out if you're all done, and anytime you need to check on your application, you can always go back in by clicking on the Appeal Filing Status Change tab. Of course, it'll make you log in first. Okay. So that is how you file an appeal using Sales Locator. But like I said, Using Sales Locator is optional. You are not required to use it. So we're going to show you how to do this without using Sales Locator. Now we're going to go a little quicker because there's a lot of repetition from what you just saw. Don't worry if you have any questions. If we go too fast on something, you will have the chance to ask those questions at the end of the presentation. So in this case, you're going to click on File and Appeal, either on the bottom of the screen or on the left-hand side. You're going to choose the form, and again, for most of you, it's going to be an AR1, which is for 1, 2, or 3 family homes. Okay, so now, since we didn't do Sales Locator, this is the point where you look for your property again. So again, if you know your parcel ID, you can enter that. Most of you are going to use the property search. You put in the house number, street name, remember, nothing after the street, town, zip code, click search. When your property comes up, you're going to click on the parcel ID. Okay. As you see now, it's got the parcel ID, the address, and the name on the roll in Part A. Again, you're going to add the applicant's first name, the applicant's name, property owner. You're going to add a spouse or co-owner. In form, again, it'll be individual for most of you, but if not, choose the appropriate drop-down. Part B is slightly different because we didn't use Sales Locator. Part B is totally blank. You have to enter a number. And if you don't enter a number into this Part B, your appeal will not go through. It has to have a number in there. So let's say for our example, we want to put in $430,000 because it's less than the $461,000 Department of Assessment has. You don't use any dollar signs. You don't use decimal points or commas. You purely put in the main numbers. So for $430,000, you would put in 430,000. That's it. Below that, again, is asking about whether the property is offered for sale or it's under contract or it's been on the market. If the answer is yes, choose yes and enter the appropriate price. Like before, Part C, done automatically, nothing to do here. Part D, just the same as before. You click on display, opens it wide open. You can check out everything here, fill out as much, as little, or nothing at all. Again, Part D is my favorite part. I feel it's the best place to make your case, especially if there's something about the location of your home that you feel impacts the value in a negative way. Part E, entirely optional. Now, this time it's blank because we didn't use Sales Locator, but you can add sales, like we mentioned before, by clicking for the parcel ID, doing a search, finding the property, and then you can manually add sales, sale date, sale price, any comments. And like we said before, Zillow, Realtor.com, MLS if you have access, calling a local realtor, whatever the other sources you think of can be used. But again, Part E, entirely optional. You do not need to include any comparable sales when you're filing an appeal. Part F, same as before, put in the security code, read through the statements, make sure you choose the right signatory certification, in this case, owner of record, and we're going to click submit. Like before, any mistakes, find them right away. Shows you Part A, errors in Part B. You make the corrections, you choose submit changes, and this time when you get it right, appeal has been submitted, and again, you're going to get that confirmation email. If you want to make any changes to your appeal, on the left-hand side, you see it says Appeal Filing Status Change. You would click on that. You would click on the application number for the appeal to see your submitted application. You may have to change the tax year or enter some search information if it doesn't come up right away. As you see, ours is at the bottom of the screen. You're going to click on the application number. Now, on the application page, you can edit the information you provided. You can confirm a new information was added by clicking on Submit Changes. You don't resubmit the entire form. You only click Submit Changes in the section where you made changes. So in this example, you see now it says 460 in there. We've changed it from the 430 we said we were going to do to the 460. You would make that change and click Submit Changes. And again, I remind you, you can only make these changes and additions yourself until the filing deadline of April 30th, 2021. Anytime after that, you're going to have to contact customer service and have them make any changes for you. Again, if you want to add any documents to your appeal, you can click on where it says ARC Communications / Attachments. And then you can go back and upload a document the same way you did before by clicking where it says upload your document. Also, if you need to delete a document, as you see, the option to delete is there as well. Okay, folks, we are almost done. One more thing. You have the option to withdraw your appeal. Now, why would you withdraw your appeal? Well, if you accidentally filed more than one appeal on the same parcel, you would have to delete one, because if you have two, they won't look at either one of them. If you filed with a firm and then you filed yourself, well, only one of those could be good. So if you want to stick with the firm, then you'd have to withdraw the one that you entered. So in order to withdraw withdraw the appeal, you have to make sure all your pop-up blockers are turned off. It's very important for this step. So on the left-hand side, you see it says withdraw appeal. You're going to click on that, and a pop-up box opens up with a message. And basically it says, are you sure you want to do this? Are you positive you want to withdraw this appeal from the system? Because once you do, you can't undo this. Once you've deleted it, you can't get it back again. You'd have to file the appeal all over again if it was your only one. You check off that you've read the agreement, you click on agree, and the application has been withdrawn. And you can see on the right-hand side where it says status, it says withdrawn. So, believe it or not, that's it. We've covered everything. So it is now time to answer all your questions. To help me do that, we're going to bring in the Vice Chairperson of the Assessment Review Commission, Jeremy May. Jeremy, join us.
Thank you very much, Rob, and good evening, everyone. As Rob just mentioned, my name is Jeremy May. I serve as the Vice Chairperson of the Assessment Review Commission, and I thought I might be able to assist Rob with your questions this evening, particularly because while Rob is one of our appraisers, I do have different training and education, so I can add a little bit more perspective than Rob can just by himself. That all being said, I think that Rob did a great job, and that between the two of us, we should be able to assist with all of the audience's questions. We have been working to try and answer your questions individually as you ask them, so I hope that the audience does not mind if I paraphrase some of these questions in case they assist the rest of the audience as well. So all that being said, let's go ahead and begin. We had a member of the audience that was concerned about the shape of their lot, it being a little bit of an irregular shape, more triangular than, four corners. And also concerned about the fire hydrant located in front of their house. Rob, how much does a triangular lot throw you off? You're muted, Rob.
Yes, I realized I was muted when I started to speak. It really depends. Sometimes it's the shape of a lot. Sometimes it's what the shape of a lot does to your ability to use the lot. So depending on the shape of your lot, maybe you have very little of a backyard, which means maybe your neighbors could put a pool on, but you can't fit a pool because you have a very small backyard. You have more of a side yard. When in doubt, make a note in Part D and say, yes, we have an atypical lot shape. It's triangular or a trapezoid or dodecahedron, whatever you want to put. Let us know. If you point that out, we have the ability to go into the system and actually look at the shape of your lot on tax maps and overhead maps. And if you are correct and it makes a difference, yes, we can account for that and determine how much of an impact that has on the value, on your assessed value. So if you feel that's important, we feel that's important. So go ahead, make a note in Part D. And by the way, speaking of Part D, if when you're typing anything in the notes in Part D, in that box at the bottom, if there's not enough room, you can type a Word document telling us everything you need to tell us and attach it just like you would any other attachment. So don't feel limited by that small box on Part D. If you've got a lot to say, we want to hear about it. Type us a Word document and attach it to your appeal.
And that's true of any contextual information about the property. I mean, for this question, we're able to use the very specific example of a triangular lot. But, as Rob mentioned during the presentation, Part D is really your opportunity to open up a dialogue with the Assessment Review Commission. So you don't need to feel as if Part D or the application as a whole is a test that you're in danger of failing. The idea of the application is that you are going to make your best case for why your property is overassessed. At the end of the day, it could be possible that ARC disagrees with you on a certain point, but we certainly wouldn't recommend that nervousness or anxiety about whether any one particular factor is going to get you over the hump should stop you from speaking to the Assessment Review Commission about that factor, whether that be the shape of your lot, whether that be, the fire hydrant, or whether that be, that major traffic separation, the train station, the golf course, whatever the contextual situation is, you cannot be harmed by sharing it with ARC. The only thing that it does is it allows the appraisal team to keep that broader perspective in mind when they're performing their own review.
And by the way, thank you for mentioning fire hydrant, because I forgot to address that part of the question. If you have a fire hydrant in front of your house, don't just say I have a fire hydrant in front of the house. Explain why it's a bad thing. It limits the ability for you to park in front of your home. It makes it difficult to get out of my driveway, whatever the case may be. Don't just say I have a fire hydrant. Say why you think it's a bad thing.
All right, so let's take another question. This particular member of the audience was concerned that if their appeal was denied, whether or not their taxes could go up. So this is one of the reasons why Rob and I are very, very particular when we speak about what you're doing before the Assessment Review Commission. It is very common and colloquial for someone to say that what you're doing before ARC is grieving your taxes. That is not technically correct. What we do before the Assessment Review Commission is review the assessed value of the property. Now, of course, ultimately that assessed value is going to be used to calculate taxes at a later time, but the assessed value itself is not the only factor that determines a tax bill. So be assured that filing an appeal before the Assessment Review Commission can in no way harm you. Our agency does not have the authority to increase an assessment as a result of an appeal. That is not the same thing as promising that a tax bill will not go up in comparison to the previous year, because things can happen that ARC may not be aware of or certainly in control of. The easiest example that I like to use of this is that presuming everything else remains 100% exactly the same in your area, if between one year and the next, the school budget goes up by 2%, which is far from uncommon, everyone's overall tax bill will increase even if their assessments remain the same. So the very short answer is that you 100% cannot be harmed in any way by filing an appeal with the Assessment Review Commission. So I want that to be the takeaway. ARC has no ability to increase your assessment.
Okay, we got a few questions about whether the workshop's going to be on the website and so forth. I wanted to point out two things. We are planning on sharing one of Legislator Gaylor's sessions on his webpage. We'll update you, or he'll update you when we have that posted. In the meantime, there is a 6-minute version of this presentation that is on ARC's website, right on the front page. So if you're looking at the application and you kind of forgot a few things and you want a refresher, you can use that 6-minute video. It will help you. It's not as detailed as what we did tonight, but it definitely has a lot of important information. And if you look in the Q&A, you'll notice in the Q&A, we published a whole bunch of links. That's the link to our website, our email address and telephone number. There's also a direct link that if you click on it where it says Trifold, it will download the brochure we spoke about in the beginning of the presentation. Additionally, we have the contact information for Department of Assessment in the Q&A, including their phone number, or if you click on the form we linked to, there's a form you could fill out. One hint we got from our customer service guys is if you call Department of Assessment, and their number there is 516-571-1500, we strongly recommend you resist the temptation to press any options or extensions. Just wait for the end of the message. You'll get a much better chance of reaching the person you want to reach. Again, that's from our customer service guys who do this on a daily basis. So I'm going to trust them.
Okay, so we had a member of the audience that was concerned that because of a major renovation that they may not want to file an appeal with ARC. It's to an extent difficult to advise on that for a couple of different reasons, but I'm going to do my best and see what I can do to assist. The assessment in Nassau County, for better or for worse, is an annual process. The Department of Assessment publishes a value on your property at the beginning of every single January. What we here at the Assessment Review Commission recommend is that you take a look at that assessment every time that it's published and ask yourself the question and conduct some research to find the answer to the question of, is my property overassessed? If your property is overassessed, it doesn't matter if you've recently renovated it or not. If your property is overassessed, you are entitled to an assessment reduction. If you have done a major renovation and you think that as a result of that renovation, your property's value has gone up, and in your estimation, the Department of Assessment may have your value correct, then in your judgment, it may not make sense to grieve the assessment on your property because it may be more or less accurate. But again, that's a decision that you should make on your own. We here at ARC certainly can't advise one way or the other. It's our role here to educate our audience on their rights to file an appeal and how best to go about doing so. We are much more limited, and I think rightly so, in giving advice one way or another on filing the appeal at all. We firmly believe that that is a decision that every property owner should make for themselves. Okay. So we have a question here about the number of successful appeals in our previous year and whether or not that reflects on the filing period that we're currently in. While we don't have numbers on immediately at our fingertips, I would suggest that that's not really an important metric to help answer the question, should somebody file this year? As I just mentioned, the assessment in Nassau County is an annual process. And even if you agreed or disagreed with an assessment during a previous year, I would suggest that that does not inform on the decision to file for this year. The Department of Assessment published a value for your property on January 4th. It's my recommendation that you look at that value, you do your research to answer the question, is that value correct or not? And if you find that that value is incorrect, it would be my recommendation to file regardless of what happened in previous years, that they are frankly irrelevant to the current year's value.
Jeremy, I know we had a question before that I wanted to address, or actually it's probably better for you to address. Does this impact anything to do with village taxes and village assessments and so forth?
Well, I unfortunately have to give a typical lawyer answer and say it depends. Villages in Nassau County have the option of adopting the county assessor's values or to generate and rely upon their own values. So without knowing the specific village and whether or not they adopt the county's assessment roll in its entirety, or if they publish their own values, I had to fall back on the it depends. If your village is using the county value, then you're in the right place because the Assessment Review Commission hears grievances on values published by the county's Department of Assessment. If your village has its own assessment department and is at least in part publishing their own assessment, you actually need to grieve that assessment with your village's Board of Assessment Review, which would be a separate body than Nassau County's Assessment Review Commission. I'm not going to have, off the top of my head, a working memory of which villages are which, but I could suggest that if you are concerned about that you consult your most recent tax bills to see, whom is levying taxes on you and what assessment that they are using to do that. If you're noticing that there is a different assessment for village and county taxes, that's probably an indication that your village has its own separate assessment system.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. I wanted to remind everybody, because we had some question about finding out information about your property, specifically your property. And you could always go to mynassauproperty.com, which I just put the link on the Q&A as well, to find out information about your property in terms of the assessed value, the market value, what it's been in the past. You can check the inventory of your property to make sure that they have the correct information, the square footage, lot size, and so forth. So it never hurts to take a trip over to mynassauproperty.com and check out the information they have for your property. May help you out in the future.
And that may also assist that you might have posted that information in response to this question, Rob, but one of our audience members was concerned about finding the cost of their home as of January 2nd. If by cost you are asking about the value that the Department of Assessment published your home at, My Nassau Property is a place that you can go to do that. If you are asking, how do you determine the cost of your home to include as part of your application? Sales Locator is a way to help you find a benchmark to arrive at that figure. If you found some comparable sales and compared them to your own home, Sales Locator is going to give you the average adjusted sales price of those range of sales, and that could be your benchmark. If your home was assessed at $500,000 and Sales Locator came back with a combined average sales price of $475, you can go ahead and ask for $475, or if you disagreed with that, you can go lower or higher. Part B of the application is not there to trip anyone up. It is just that you have to direct to an extent our review of the property. You know, if you think it's 90% off or it was 10% off, it's more of a benchmark than a, you know, straight up goalpost for, yeah, totally butchered that one. But anyway, I hope that helped. Moving on to one that I can probably be a little bit more eloquent with. We have a member of the audience who was concerned that after using Sales Locator, that only 8 sales were identified, and the member of the audience was concerned that none of those sales were actually really comparable to their own property. This is unusual, but not impossible. And what I would say is that while Sales Locator is a very useful tool, or at least I find it to be a very useful tool, it is not the end of the discussion all the time. If it is the end of the discussion and it shows you what you need to know, fantastic. But in those circumstances where it does not get you to the end of the road, other resources that you can consult are public realty sites like Zillow. And I think Rob also mentioned this during his presentation. We have found that local realtors are more than willing to assist property owners in finding comparable sales because it helps them build a good business relationship with members of their community, and they have the added perk of perhaps having that member remember that nice realtor that helped them out when the time comes to sell their own property. So Sales Locator is a research tool, but if it's not getting you to the end of the road, that should not indicate that you not file an appeal. It just means that you might have to broaden the net a little bit and expand that search to include some other resources. Okay.
We have a great question from, sounds like a really good grandson or granddaughter. My grandmother owns the house. She is not very tech smart, so I'm helping her out. Can she give your office permission to speak to me if calling the office was necessary?
Okay. So when it comes to filing an appeal with the Assessment Review Commission, we are typically looking for the property owner or the person who is actually responsible for paying the taxes to file the appeal. In a circumstance where that's not practical, that homeowner can have somebody else file the appeal on their behalf, whether that be a family member, whether that be a kind member, kind neighbor, or whether that be, you know, a firm if someone were to choose to hire a firm. In any of those circumstances, the procedure is the same. We have an authorization form that we host on our website. You can download that authorization form. You can fill it out with the homeowner. They can execute that. And that authorization form gives that person permission to file, and it gives the Assessment Review Commission permission to speak to that person who filed the application on the owner's behalf. And it's really rather painless and quite that simple. if you do encounter any difficulty with having an authorization form filled out, you can speak to our customer service team about that, and we will provide any assistance that we can.
Okay. I see a question: would being next to a medical building and a gas station count as being next to an eyesore? Potentially. Most folks don't want to live next to a gas station, so I would definitely say if you're by a gas station, whether it's next to, behind, diagonally, across from, in terms of a medical building, definitely could have an impact if there's a lot more cars and parking in the area. Anything that you see or anything that you feel would be a negative. That if you were selling your house, somebody would say, well, you know what? You may think the house is worth $200,000, but it's next to a gas station. I think it's only worth $175 or $180, whatever the case may be. So just put yourself in the position of somebody buying your home. And if they were to think that something outside your home would be considered a good negotiating tool for them to lower the price of your home, put it in Part D and explain it. Say, I'll buy a gas station, we smell the gas, there's lines and so forth. They have a body shop that's open all the time. We hear the noise, whatever the case may be. Use Part D just for things like that.
Okay, and just because we had at least one member of the audience that reported joining a little bit later in the presentation, I'll just go ahead and reiterate that this session is being recorded, that we can certainly work with Legislator Gaylor to make this available for viewing again on his website. However, if you are interested, we also have a shorter version of this presentation on ARC's homepage, which is askarcnassau.com. It's about 6 minutes long. It doesn't go into the same depth, but if you are not interested necessarily at this moment in the entire hour-long talk and just need a quicker answer, that may be a good place to look. Okay. I think this question is concerned about costs of renovation or construction in Part D. Rob, can you bring Part D's slide up, please?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think this is referring to one of the first questions in Part D, and whether that is a contract of sale or some sort of construction cost. This is something that you would report to the Assessment Review Commission. If it is a renovation or reconstruction, we would not necessarily be aware of what the cost of any of that work would be. Presumably, as the property owner who commissioned that work to be done, you would have a contract or some other bill of sale or receipt that you could provide that would demonstrate the cost of the work being done. If we're talking about a contract of sale, you can provide the contract of sale and get the cost off of there. But again, Part D is not there to be a test that you can fail at. So it's not as if, if you're talking about a renovation which added a new bathroom and you reported the cost was approximately $10,000, and ARC has essentially no ability to double check you on that. That would be just what you're reporting to us. I wouldn't be concerned if you don't have the exact dollar and cent figure if you were going to tell us about a renovation, but I would hope that you would have some backup from the contractor or other professional that was performing the work that would demonstrate those costs. If that was work that you had just done yourself and therefore there is no contractor that bills you for that work, that becomes a little bit more interesting. In that circumstance, you might want to consult with a contractor and ask them, hey, if I needed you to knock out my old bathroom and put in a new bathroom, what would you charge me? And try and get a quote from them for the work. And then you can include the quote and explain, I did this myself. Here is a photograph that demonstrates I did it myself. And as far as I can tell, contractors would be looking to get something in the area of X dollars for performing the work. Okay. Okay, so this particular member of the audience is concerned about their garage. After they acquired the property, they converted the garage from a garage to additional living area. Would that help or hurt their grievance? Well, Off the top of my head, it would seem to me that if the living area of the home increased, that would likely make it more valuable, but I don't know that for a fact off the top of my head. So in circumstances like this goes back to that question that we're asking ourselves. The Department of Assessment published a value on January 4th. Do I agree that that value is correct, or do I think that value is too high? If you think that that value is too high, even with the additional living area that you have, then you would still want to file an appeal. It may be harder to find comparable sales for your home because if the Department of Assessment record card still has that as garage and not living space, you're going to be compared to other homes that still have a garage. So the sales locator is going to be a less useful tool in that circumstance. But perhaps Zillow and a local realtor would be able to help provide other sales of homes with a converted garage to compare yourself with and give yourself a better idea of what the home would have sold for back on January 4th.
By the way, for those who asked, I've confirmed that Legislator Gaylor wants at least one, if not both, of his sessions up on his website. So probably by Tuesday or Wednesday or so, at least one of them should be up on his website where you first found the link for tonight's session.
Okay, so at this time, it appears that Rob and I have tackled every question that was put into the Q&A. If you disagree with me, go ahead and correct me by reiterating your question or concern in the Q&A feature. That being said, Rob and I certainly still have a few minutes to wait for any more additional questions that may have come up while we've been addressing the Q&A session. And in the interim, I'm going to take the opportunity to again thank Rob for giving a wonderful presentation, our colleague Jason, who assisted us behind the scenes, and to thank Legislator Gaylor for inviting us to speak to his constituents this evening. So all that being said, Rob and I are happy to give folks a couple of minutes to ask any follow-ups. If not, we will bid everyone to have a wonderful weekend and close out for the evening.
While we're waiting, I just want to remind everybody once again that in the Q&A, we published all of our contact information, our web address, our hours of operation, our phone number, email address, and so forth. And again, make sure you download that trifold brochure. You just click on the link right there in the Q&A and download it. It's a great place to also write your username and password. Keep it all in one place. You have the important dates, all the contact information, and your username and password all in one place. Very handy. And again, in that same announcement that's on the Q&A is all the contact information for the Department of Assessment, including their phone number and a direct link to a form that you could fill out and send your questions into Department of Assessment. And again, anything that has to do with the inventory of your home. And that would include potentially if you converted your garage to living space and whether you have permits or not. That would be a question for Department of Assessment as well. So please take advantage of that information. That's located right in the Q&A.
Okay, so we have a member of the audience that is concerned about whether to use sales or whether to also include assessments of neighboring homes. You are going to make your best case that your home is overassessed by giving evidence of sales. Comparing assessments to other assessments is not a, for lack of a better word, valid methodology for valuing a property. Here in New York State, we typically see property being valued for assessment purposes in one of three ways. And when we come to residential property, the only one that's truly relevant is the comparable sales analysis. The other two basically are not relevant. One of them is the income approach, which basically never applies to a home, and the other is the cost approach, which you don't really ever want to use if another method is viable. And since we do see what comparable homes are selling for, the comparable market analysis is viable and available. So that is the methodology that ARC in general and Rob and his team uses to help them arrive at their value recommendations that we utilize for our determinations.
Again, a reminder, we'll be posting these to Legislator Gaylor's site. He's requested that both of our sessions, this afternoon's and tonight's, be posted, so they should be up probably sometime Tuesday, Wednesday latest. So keep an eye out for that. And
Okay.
at this time, I believe if there were no further questions, we're going to end the presentation for this evening.
Have a wonderful weekend, all. Please stay warm and safe.